In today's session, we are going to take up a topic under rural and agrarian transformation in India. We are going to discuss about programs of rural development. So what are we going to discuss in this session? First, we'll understand what is rural development, what is the significance of rural development, the process of rural development that we initiated post-independence, what are the components, what have been the different kind of approaches to address the challenges of rural development. And we'll also see some of the schemes that we initiated, some of the initiatives that were taken by the government. Apart from that, we'll also look at some of the challenges to the rural development process. So all these things we will discuss in this session. So the first thing here, what is rural development? Now, rural development is defined as the complex and long-term processes which involve fundamental transformation of rural society at social and economic levels. So rural development implies you are going for transformation of rural society. Now, when I use the term rural society, now it has some specific features. A rural area is different from an urban area. For example, the size of the community will be small in case of a rural area. The density of population will be less in case of a rural area. But apart from these features, you'll also find some specific social features in rural area. The way people interact with one another. In rural areas, you will find personal relationships will be there. Caste and other factors can play a very significant role in rural areas. People associate themselves with caste. This might not be that big a factor in urban areas. Apart from that, people will not be specialized. Specialized occupations might not be there. Society has not become very differentiated in rural areas. Economic levels also, there will be some specific feature. The kind of occupations people have. Generally, the primary kind of occupations, primary kind of activities they're taking up. The division of labor is not very specialized in rural areas. The amount of incomes that people have generated is less. Most of the people in rural areas will be employed in agricultural activities or allied sector. So there are certain specific features in rural areas at the social and economic level. If you are trying to bring about transformation along these lines, that is called rural development. VKR Vadraj Rao, he says that rural development means optimum utilization of natural and human resources of a given area for the enrichment of the quality of life. That means you are improving the standard of living of the people over there. In rural areas, people don't have very good income, they face multiple kinds of challenges. So you are trying to improve their standard of living, and how you are trying to do that? By ensuring optimum utilization of natural as well as human resources. The potential of human beings is utilized. At the same time, whatever natural potential we have, you are utilizing that. So rural development involves transformation of rural society at both social as well as economic level. For example, you are trying to improve literacy in these regions, you are improving the awareness of people in this region, you are trying to raise their incomes, you are trying to raise their standard of living. So all these things will fall here. You are ensuring that people are now becoming more and more individualistic. In rural areas, people generally have the collectivistic mindset. For example, when they are going for voting, they will not vote as individuals, rather they will vote as a particular group, corporate entity. The entire caste will vote for a particular candidate, the family will vote for a particular candidate. It is not the individual who is casting the vote, participating in the political process, but it is the entire corporate group. So you are trying to bring about those changes. How individualism you are trying to promote. So that can be one aspect. So there are so many aspects to rural development. So just keep this in mind that you are trying to bring about fundamental transformations in the society at the social and economic level. And rural development also means optimum utilization of both human as well as natural resources. Final aim here is you are trying to improve the quality of life of the people. When it comes to rural development, has rural development been taken up only after independence, or were there some initiatives before independence as well? During the time of the colonial rule, were there any mechanism for rural development? Now, rural development, some initiatives were there during the colonial rule. Some initiatives were taken up by the Britishers, but at the same time, some initiatives were also taken up by other institutions and agencies. Apart from the initiatives taken up by the British government, some initiatives were also taken up by some voluntary organizations. For example, Sewagram Ashram in Wardha, Maharashtra. Now, Sewagram Ashram in Wardha, it also took up some rural development activities in areas near Wardha, as well as surrounding areas. For example, it promoted adult education. It promoted creation of different cottage industries, very different places. Apart from that, it also focused on providing clean drinking water facilities, potable drinking water facilities. So some initiatives were taken up by Sewagram Ashram, voluntary organization. Similar kind of setup was also there in Shantiniketan. It also focused on education and other rural development activities in surrounding areas. Apart from this, some literary works, they also focused on rural development. For example, works of Premchand, Jayashankar Prasad. Now they highlighted the plight of people in the rural areas. What kind of challenges they are facing? If there is famine, what are the challenges they face? So people who are working in the agrarian sector, people who are staying in the rural areas, their issues, their grievances were brought to the forefront because of the literary works of people like Premchand and Jayashankar Prasad. So they also had a significant role to play to at least highlight the issues of lack of rural development. So during the pre-independence period, all these things were taken up initiative. But when we have become independent, it was realized that we need to focus on rural development. What is the reason why rural development is very, very significant? Now, first thing, rural development in rural areas, people are engaged in agriculture. Now, in fact, the way we define rural areas and urban areas, and we will be discussing it again later on when we will be discussing what urban settlements and urbanization issues are there. Keep one thing in mind here. When we are trying to identify whether rural areas, rural area, or urban area, one of the factors that is taken into consideration is what kind of economic activities people are engaged in. If predominantly a larger section of population is involved in agriculture, it is classified as rural area. If a large section, if more than 3/4 section of the population is involved in industrial services, it is classified as an urban area. So the very definition of whether an area is rural or urban is decided on the basis of the kind of economic activity we are engaged in. So rural area can also be interchangeably used as an area where agricultural activities are predominant. And agriculture is something which feeds our mouth. So for food security, rural development is very important. For ensuring that agriculture works well, we have to ensure the development of rural areas. So for ensuring food security, the development of rural areas is very important. Apart from that, rural development is also important for socio-economic equality. Now, go back to the definition. What was the definition of rural development? We want to bring about fundamental transformation at the social as well as economic level. In rural areas, caste is a major factor. Rural society is divided along caste lines. In urban areas, caste is less important, but in rural areas, caste is very significant. So we have to reduce all these socio-economic inequalities that exist within the rural society. Apart from that, class-based stratification is also there in rural areas. That also needs to be taken care of. Landlessness. Some sections of the population, they are landless. So we have to ensure that they are given some amount of social justice as well. Apart from that, we need to ensure that rural and urban situation, the difference between rural areas and urban areas, the inequality between rural areas and urban areas, that also gets reduced. So we need to ensure that there is balanced development. So we have to focus on rural development. Apart from that, we have to check migration. People from rural areas might keep on migrating to urban areas because you don't have sufficient opportunities in rural areas. And if that happens, then it might be difficult to accommodate people in the urban areas. So we need to provide requisite infrastructure, basic facilities in rural areas. That can happen through rural development. Apart from that, everyone should have access to a decent standard of living. It's also a moral obligation that every individual should have access to some basic amenities in life. So for this also rural development is important. In urban areas, amenities are there, but in rural areas, these amenities are not there. So for all these factors, for all these reasons, rural development is very important. Food security of the nation. When India is becoming independent, at that point of time, we had issues when it comes to food production. We did not have sufficient food, and in fact, we were dependent on other countries. If we were dependent on other countries, sovereignty will get impacted. So we have to be food secure nation, and that is where rural development can be a role. Apart from that, there was a lot of inequality in rural areas. Not that now inequality has completely become zero, but the amount of inequality was very high at that point of time. We need to reduce that. Rural and urban divide is there, inequality is there, that needs to be reduced. Migration needs to be checked. How can you check migration? By providing basic infrastructure and amenities in rural areas. Apart from that, every individual should have access to basic amenities. That needs to be provided, so they have to be provided some decent standard of living. Now, the approach that we are taking up, we went ahead with the rural development programs initiatives. Now, what are the things that we are trying to focus on? What are the components of a rural development process? So, agricultural productivity is one important component. Agricultural productivity means what is the yield per hectare? That has to gradually increase over a period of time. At some point of time, the yield per hectare might be low. With the use of fertilizers, with the use of pesticides, with the use of different kind of innovative methods, the agricultural productivity can be improved. Basic infrastructure should be there in rural areas. What is basic infrastructure? Road facilities, toilet facilities, electricity, drinking water facility, healthcare facilities, education facilities. These are all basic infrastructure. That needs to be there. Inequality needs to be reduced. Another component is developing rural leadership. 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. It gives constitutional status to panchayat institutions, a very effective mechanism by which rural leadership can emerge. Reducing burden from the cities. if there is huge difference in inequality between urban areas and rural areas, then people will continuously keep on migrating from rural to urban areas. And in such a scenario, cities will not be able to accommodate people, and it can lead to a situation which can lead to different kind of conflicts in urban areas as well. The cities will not have the capacity to accommodate so many people. So you also need to reduce the burden of the cities. Another very important component of rural development is improving the rural environment, improving the rural ecology. For example, how can you improve the rural environment? Now, it has been observed in recent times, last couple of decades, because of excessive use of fertilizers, because of excessive use of pesticides, the rural environment has degraded. So now we have to change this. And because of degradation of rural environment, what happens? The quality of the soil it is getting impacted. So agricultural production as well as productivity is impacted. Because of usage of certain kind of pesticides and fertilizers, different diseases are also increasing. Some of these elements, some of these chemicals are also carcinogenic in nature. It causes cancer. So that also needs to be improved. That needs to be changed. We need to address the issue of unemployment. Not only unemployment, but also underemployment, disguised employment. In rural areas, people are engaged in agriculture. Now, what is the contribution of agriculture to the GDP and how many people are engaged in agriculture? Around 60% of the population will be engaged in agriculture, but the contribution to the GDP is hardly 30-40%. Now, it points to the fact that there are so many people in agriculture who are not contributing anything to agriculture. They are just there for the sake of being there. Even if you take them out from agriculture, the amount of production is not going to be impacted. So we need to address this. We need to ensure that people are taken out from these disguised employment and they are provided some gainful employment. At the same time, rural areas, why are people working as disguised employees over there? Because they do not have sufficient opportunities. So different employment opportunities also needs to be provided in rural areas. For example, new jobs can be created. For example, in food processing sector or other allied sectors. Community participation is also a very important component of rural development. Now, see, we can go ahead with the approaches. Different kind of approaches can be there. One approach is top-down approach. At the central level, you decide a policy and you are implementing it at the grassroots level. But what has happened here? All these things have been decided at the central level. Maybe in Delhi, that formulating a policy which is applied everywhere. But just think about it. In case of India, there is a lot of diversity. If you are having a uniform policy throughout the country, will it be effective? Something which works well in Kerala might not work well in Northeast. Something which works well in Maharashtra might not work well in Himachal. So top-down approach might not be successful. What is more important is community participation. That means people in the rural areas themselves participate in the policy formulation implementation process. They are the ones who tell what is required by them. They are the ones who participate in all these processes. And this way, if people are participating in the process, they also have the ownership. They also feel that policy is there. They are part of the policy. The most effective stakeholders here. So rural development programs should also ensure people's participation. And in this way, they also become politically aware. Political consciousness is improving. Can also lead to other benefits like development of rural leadership. Rural development also has to ensure empowerment of certain sections of the population who have been traditionally marginalized. For example, in case of India, women, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, other backward classes, they are the ones who have been always marginalized. So our rural development process should need to take into consideration these factors as well. It should be equitable. The benefits should not be distributed equally, but it should be distributed equitably. Those who are more vulnerable, those who are more marginalized should get more benefits. Apart from that, we have to ensure distributive justice. Justice also needs to be ensured through this. So our rural development process includes all these components. We have tried to include these components, or we at least aim to ensure all these things. Now, we'll see what have been some of the different kind of approaches that we have had when it comes to rural development. So different kind of approaches we have used for ensuring rural development. First is sectoral approach. Now, what do we mean by sectoral approach? Sectoral approach means you are targeting a particular sector of the economy. For example, green revolution, it is targeting agricultural sector. We have to increase the production, we have to increase productivity of agriculture. We have to ensure that we become a food secure nation. Similarly, we also promote cottage industries. So this kind of approach is referred to as sectoral approach when we focus on certain specific sectors of the economy. Apart from that, we have also gone for targeted approach. We are targeting certain section of the population here. For example, SHGs, self-help groups. What we are trying to do here, we are identifying certain section of the population, for example, women. We realize the fact that women are poorer as compared to male counterparts. Poverty is successful in nature. More women suffer from poverty. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to empower women. We are trying to ensure financial inclusion for women. Women should be brought under the form of financial help. So what we are trying to do, we are creating self-help groups. We are creating groups of women, 10 to 20 women. They will form one group, and this particular group is provided finances by the banks and other financial institutions. And that way, we ensure that they come under the financial hold. They get financials from this institution. Sometimes what they will do, they will use these finances to build small institutions, and these institutions have been sustainable. So that way, their economic position is improving, and as their economic position improves, their stay within the family also improves. Wherever women earn, wherever women have a stable income, we also find that performance along with the social economic indicators also improve. For example, because of self-help groups or wherever self-help groups have been successful, these are also the places where we find infant mortality rate has gone down drastically, maternal mortality rate has also gone down drastically. And once economic empowerment and social empowerment takes place, it also leads to political empowerment. Women who are part of SHGs, they also become very important pressure groups at the local level. They influence politics at the local level. So promoting self-help groups is an example of targeted approach. You are targeting women here. You know what is the advantage if you target women here. What is the advantage if there is economic, social, and political empowerment of women. Another example can be promotion of wage employment, promotion of skills among certain sections of the population in rural area. So this is called targeted approach. Apart from this, you have also gone for area development approach. Example, drought-prone area programs. So those places which are more prone to drought, what can be done about it? Another example, hill area development program. So how you are trying to bring about development in areas. Tribal area development program, places which are inhabited by tribals. What can be the policy approach here? So depending on the area also, we have initiative schemes. Drought-prone area program, tribal area development programs, hill area development program. We've also gone for social justice approach. Now, what is the meaning of social justice approach here? Now, some people have been denied justice, or some people have always lagged behind. Now, we are providing them some sort of compensation, or we are providing them justice now. For example, in case of India, landlessness was quite prevalent. Due to the different kind of policies during the colonial era, some people did not have access to land, they had become landless. So we are initiating land reforms. So that can be a social justice approach. What we are doing under land reforms is, we are ensuring that people who are landless get at least some amount of land. Land savings are initiated. If you have land beyond this much level, then your land will be taken by the state, some compensation will be provided, and the excess land that has been collected by the state needs to be redistributed back to those people who do not have any land. So that approach is called land reforms, and this falls under social justice approach. Who have been traditionally marginalized, they have given some benefits. Apart from this, the provision of positive discrimination, affirmative action. Certain sections of the population have been lagging behind, they have been traditionally marginalized, you are giving them some benefits. Policy of reservation, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, reservation, women also get reservation. So at different places they will get reservation. For example, in Panchayat institutions, there will be reservation. They also standing elections for state legislature, for parliament, they also have reservations. So this approach is called social justice approach. Participatory approach. Now, participatory approach means people are able to participate in the development processes themselves. The most prominent example will be Panchayat institutions, and they have constitutional status. As per 75th Amendment Act, Panchayat institutions are having constitutional status. Apart from that, we also initiated community development program. So there also community participation is there. We are also promoting volunteeristic approach. Now, volunteeristic approach means NGOs and other civil society groups, they are promoted, and these NGOs, civil society groups, they also bring about rural development. In case of India, you would have observed so many NGOs are working for rural development sector. So these are the different types of approaches for rural development. Now, the approach for rural development can also be looked at from another angle. Some approaches can be called as paternalistic approach. Some approaches can be also referred to as technocratic approach. Some approach can also be referred to as welfarist approach. Three divisions. This way also we can divide it. Now, what is the meaning of these approaches? What do we mean by paternalistic approach? See, in paternalistic approach, what we are trying to do here is you're assuming that people themselves need to be guided. They themselves cannot ensure development, so they require some help here. Some sort of guide is required, some sort of guidance is required by the people in rural areas. One of the example of paternalistic approach can be community development program. Now, under this program, every village used to have a government functionary, and this particular government functionary will act as a friend, philosopher, guide. This particular government functionary will make people aware of different modern and scientific ideas. So here you are assuming that whatever practices people had till this point of time, they're not up to date, they're outmoded, and they need to be discarded. New kind of technology needs to be introduced here. So this approach is paternalistic. Someone is guiding you. You're assuming that people themselves cannot, or people, whatever technology people have at their disposal at present, they are not up to the mark. Another kind of approach is technocratic approach. Now, here you are basically using science and technology here. One of the most prominent examples is Green Revolution, which was initiated in the 1960s. And in recent times, we are introducing biotechnology, information technology, and agriculture. The aim here has been to increase the output productivity of agriculture. But in recent times, what has happened is there have been different other kinds of concerns related to use of technology. We don't know about the different kinds of side effects. For example, if you're using genetically modified crops, many of the side effects we might not be knowing at present. Some of the side effects might emerge after 20, 30 years, and we have not been able to understand all these dimensions. So there have been different kinds of concerns with technology approach when it comes to rural development. And these side effects can be effects on human health. It can be the effect on biodiversity. It can be the effect on environment. So all these things are there. It can have an impact on sustainability as well. So sometimes there is a discussion whether these kind of approaches are sustainable in future or not. If you're going ahead with sustainable development, should we be going ahead with these kind of approaches? The third kind of approach is welfare-based approach. Here, the focus is more on poverty alleviation and these kind of things, and the focus is on ensuring equity. Whatever scheme is there, whatever policy is there, it needs to ensure equity. What is equity? How is equity and equality different? Now, equality means everyone is given equal rewards. Equity means those who are more vulnerable, they get higher rewards. So that is equity. For example, you might have seen this illustration. Let's say this is a wall here, and let's say there is a cricket match going on here. Now, there are three people here. Three people of different height. The first person is able to see the match. He's taller than the height of the wall. Second and third person, they can't see it, and their height is also different. Equality will mean everyone is provided a stool of equal length. So Mr. A is also provided a stool, B is also provided a stool, and C is also provided a stool. So all of them can stand on the stool and can watch it. But the thing here is, Mr. A did not need a stool. So why are you providing Mr. A a stool? Equity will mean you are not providing stool to Mr. A. You are providing stool to B and C. But again, the length of the stool should be such that Mr. B gets a stool which is higher in length. Mr. C will get a stool whose height is less than the height of the stool for B. B is most vulnerable, so B will get the stool which is highest. Then C and A does not require any stool. So that is equity. Those who are more vulnerable will get more benefits. So the situation here can be like this after you're getting the stool. So A, B, C, all the three people can watch the cricket match now, and the length of the stools are different, and those who are not required are not provided. So you are basically providing an equal platform here. So these are the different approaches, different way by which you can classify the approach when it comes to rural development: paternalistic approach, technocratic approach, as well as welfare-based approach. Now we will look at some of the major initiatives taken up for rural development, some of the major schemes, policies for rural development after independence. One of the most significant measures that was taken up was community development program. Under community development program, the entire country was divided into project areas. Each project area consisted of 300 villages. These 300 villages were further divided into 5 zones of 60 villages each. Then again, these zones were further divided into sub-zones, and each sub-zone had 5 villages. The main aim here was to ensure development in rural areas, and this development should come with the participation of people. So community participation was a major objective of community development program. We will be discussing community development program in details. We'll have a separate session on community development program. So there we will look at some of the specific objectives and what were carried out, what was the final outcome of community development program. Were we successful or were we limited success or was it failure? So all these things we are going to discuss in a separate session. Apart from that, we also initiated cooperative movement. Now what is the meaning of cooperative? Cooperative means people are coming together for a particular objective. So people are coming together, they're helping each other, they're helping themselves. So cooperatives were also promoted. Government also tried to promote cooperatives, and one of the most successful example of cooperative in India is Amul, milk cooperative, dairy cooperatives. So we had success when it comes to dairy cooperatives, and in some other sectors also we have had fair amount of success. In some places cooperatives are not that successful, but there are certain sectors in which cooperatives dominate. For example, sugarcane sector, cotton sector. These are the places where cooperatives dominate. So people came together to attain certain objective. And cooperatives are not only limited to rural areas, in urban areas also have cooperatives, but cooperatives are used as a mechanism for rural development, one of the major mechanisms for poverty alleviation. In the first few 5-year plans, they also talked about promoting more and more cooperatives. We'll also be discussing about cooperatives in a separate session, so they will understand what are cooperatives, what are some of the principles on which cooperatives are formed, what has been the journey so far, and what are the areas where cooperatives have faced challenges, what can be some suggestions on improving cooperatives. So we'll be discussing that as well. So cooperatives aimed at all these things: collective farming, credit financing. Sometimes you have credit cooperatives as well. People are part of the cooperative, they keep on contributing some amount of money. Whoever has a requirement will take money out of the cooperative and has to pay certain amount of interest. Apart from cooperatives, another major initiative was Panchayati Raj system, initiation of Panchayati Raj institutions. Balwant Rai Committee suggested that we should have Panchayati Raj institutions, and in 90s, Panchayati Raj institutions were also given constitutional status. So they aimed at local self-governance. They're promoting local self-governance. People are participating in their own affairs, they're deciding for themselves. Panchayati Raj institutions also, we will be discussing them in details. We'll be talking about decentralization when we will be discussing about politics and society. So we also have a separate session on this. So there also, so when we will be discussing Panchayati Raj institutions, decentralization, please link it with this particular topic. Apart from these initiatives, national extension services were also initiated. So agricultural extension services in rural areas are provided. That means farmers, they were provided different kind of knowledge, scientific knowledge related to agriculture. So it helped in increasing production and rural incomes. Scientific know-how is provided. Apart from these initiatives, some more initiatives are also there. Just a few moments back, we had discussed about the area development approach. So we initiated hill area development programs, command area development program, drought area programs. So what kind of specific initiatives should be there for a hill area, for a drought area? So those kind of initiatives are also taken up. Apart from this, there was also a focus on promoting skills, promoting employment, self-employment among rural youth. So training of rural youth for self-employment was initiated. So employment skills and training program were provided. Green Revolution was initiated. The main aim here was to increase agricultural production and to ensure, or and to increase agricultural productivity, ensure that we are a food secure nation. We are not dependent on any other country for food grains. So it improved agricultural output. It also increased rural incomes, areas, incomes in rural areas. So Green Revolution also will take up separately. So we have a separate session on that. They will understand what were the components of Green Revolution, what were the impacts of Green Revolution. Not only the economic impacts, but also social impacts, environmental impacts, all those things. So all these dimensions will take up. Apart from that, another initiative was integrated rural development program. So here what you're trying to do is you're going for a multi-pronged approach. See, there were multiple rural development programs, and it was realized at the time of 8th, 5th year plan that some 68 rural development programs were there. So instead of having so many programs, you're trying to club all of them together. See, when you have so many programs, what happens is you have multiple number of officials who are trying to administer these programs. So sometimes it can lead to confusions. It can lead to conflicts between officials. Inclusion, exclusion errors can be there. So rather than having so many programs together, club them together, integrate them. That is what you're trying to do. You're integrating rural development programs. And here there were some special components. They also targeted some specific categories of people. Special components for women was there. Special components for rural youth was there. Specific emphasis on certain sectors were there. Horticulture, sericulture, silk, cottage industries was there. Poverty alleviation also was one of the major aims here. It also focused on development of rural infrastructure, food for employment programs, employment assurance schemes. They also initiated at different points of time. Apart from this, there were some other initiatives as well. For example, Indira Awas Yojana. Indira Awas Yojana tries to provide accommodation to people, tries to help people in construction of new dwelling units. If you do not have any shelter, so you can avail Indira Awas Yojana to areas. There are multiple conditions here. Apart from that, if Kacha house is there, it can also be converted into a pakka house and a pakka house through this scheme. In recent times, this particular scheme is referred to as Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Gramin. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swaraj Yojana. It is also referred to as National Rural Livelihood Mission, was also referred to as Ajivika. And again in recent times, there has been again another name, it is referred to as Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. So here what you're trying to do is you're trying to eliminate rural poverty, you're trying to eliminate unemployment, and you're promoting self-employment. So what is done here is two things are there. One is it promotes SHGs, creation of women SHGs. So if women are part of SHGs, so it indirectly is promoting self-employment. Women will be getting some finances and they can use those finances to initiate to start different institutions. Apart from that, it also promotes wage employment. So what happens here is under the scheme, people are provided some basic skills. Because of those basic skills, they can take up employment and in return they will get some wages. So Swarna Jayanti Gram Swaraj Yojana, which is now referred to as Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, is targeting poverty, it is targeting unemployment, it is creating institutions. Self-employment is being promoted, wage employment is being promoted. Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana was also initiated. Again, certain basic requirements in rural areas are fulfilled by this. Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. This initiative was to link villages with Pakka roads. So every settlement which has a specific population should be connected by roads. That was the major aim of this policy. Bharat Nirman program. Bharat Nirman focused on developing rural infrastructure. Irrigation, water supply, housing, roads, telephone, electricity, all these things need to be provided under Bharat Nirman. Basic infrastructure. Pradhan Mantri Adarsh Gram Yojana. Now under this scheme, those villages which have significantly large scheduled caste population, in these villages there has to be integrated development. So they should have all the basic amenities in place. Those villages which have more scheduled caste. Apart from this, there is one Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. According to Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, the members of parliament, both Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, they have to adopt a particular village and they have to convert it into a model village. Again, not much rules regulations are there. There's a lot of discussion over how they can ensure that the development of the village can take place. Apart from all these initiatives that we discussed, some other initiatives also they have been taken up. For example, National Literacy Mission. Now, aim here is to promote literacy. In rural areas, illiteracy rates are high. So this particular policy is going to impact or is going to benefit more people in rural areas. Apart from this, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan has been initiated. In the past, we had put a sanitation campaign, Bharat Abhiyan. Present government calls it Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So what is the major objective of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? Swachh Bharat Abhiyan wants to make India open defecation free. In case of India, more than 50% of the population defecates in the open. So that needs to be reduced. Open defecation is one of the reasons high levels of morbidity among children in case of India, and it is one of the reasons why we have high infant mortality rates. So this needs to be reduced. Mortality because of open defecation needs to be reduced. Apart from that, it also aims to eliminate manual scavenging. There is also another way. It also aims to ensure proper garbage disposal and all these things. It also aims to provide toilet facilities in each and every house or community sanitary complexes. So Swachh Bharat Abhiyan also is one of those mechanisms by which we can ensure rural development. Apart from that, we have had integrated watershed development program. The entire watershed, the needs of the entire watershed is taken into consideration. Minimum support prices. Now, what is minimum support price? We all have a idea about it. We have covered it in economics. So this is the assured return a particular crop will ensure for a farmer. So it ensures livelihood security for farmers. They know that if they cultivate this particular crop, they will get this much amount of return. Government is going to profit from them. So again, this ensures livelihood security for people who are involved in agriculture. Indirectly means people who are in rural areas. So this is also another rural development mechanism. So all these initiatives you can include under rural development. You might come across some other initiatives as well in case you're coming across. For example, National Rural Drinking Water Project. It is an initiative to ensure drinking water supply in rural areas. So sometimes some policy schemes you can come across include them. If you're going to India Yearbook or economics survey, you might come across these schemes. Some of the schemes are specifically targeted for rural areas. Include that and find out what can be the possible challenges. So there are multiple schemes here. We have discussed the most prominent schemes here, and there can be some minor schemes, but don't worry about it. They're not going to ask you about the minor schemes. And even if there's a question, because you know what are the challenges in rural areas, you can easily answer those questions. Our focus should be on the larger schemes. So all these things are the rural development programs. But one recent initiative, the last government initiated, and now also it is continuing this NREGA. The law was NREGA, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Now what is the main aim of NREGA? NREGA aims to provide at least 100 days of employment for one member of each and every household. And this particular scheme is also for rural areas. And here there is no such distinction between APL and deep sections. It is targeted for anyone who is in rural area. So from every household, at least one person will get 100 days of work. So indirectly, it is a right-based approach to job. It is also ensuring livelihood security. And there are certain features under NREGA which makes it quite different from other approaches that we have had. NREGA is a bottom-up approach. It is on the basis of self-selection. At the center of the policy is people. Why are we calling it bottom-up approach? See, under NREGA, what happens is one individual in every household is guaranteed 100 days of work. But what are the kind of works they apply? They are the ones who will carry out different developmental works in that locality. For example, water facilities are not there. They might create some infrastructure by which water can be preserved. Land degradation is taking place. What can be some of the mechanisms by which land degradation can be arrested? So those kind of basic developmental work they carry out. But the point here is, it is the people who decide what are the work that needs to be carried out. It is the Gram Sabha which decides what kind of work needs to be carried out. So people at the bottom decide what has to be carried out. So that is the reason it is called a bottom approach. It is not a top-down approach. It is an approach on the basis of self-selection. If a person wants to carry out NREGA work, that person will be provided NREGA work. There is no such selection mechanism. It is not said that only those who are from BPL category or only who belong to a particular caste they can apply for NREGA. Anyone can be part of NREGA. And if government is not providing them 100 days of work, so they also get some sort of compensation in case job is not provided to them, work is not provided to them. Here, at the heart of the policy is people. It's a people-centric policy. Now, what do we mean by this? The fact that it's a people-centric policy. See, people are at the center of the process. They are the ones who are deciding whether they want to work or not. They are the ones who are deciding what kind of activities will be taken up. So it is people-centric in nature. Apart from that, another very important component of NREGA is there is a specific allocation for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe women. This proportion of workers has to be from scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. So that is also another important thing under NREGA. Now, what have been the achievements of NREGA so far? NREGA has ensured that women, SC, ST members, they have at least these many days of work. It has increased their purchasing power. Now, if the purchasing power of people in the rural areas increases, it also improves their bargaining power. Now, if they are seeking job in an industry, if they're not getting sufficient wages, they can always decide not to take up that job because they already have NREGA. So their bargaining power increases over a period of time. Apart from this, different developmental activities have also been carried out. So some rural areas you see different developmental projects. Apart from this, now since people have at least some income, it also prevents distress migration. People no longer migrate out of distress. Previously, since there was no work, people might migrate out because there's no opportunity for them. What they will do? There's no such opportunity. How will they free themselves? How will they ensure to meet the day? So people used to migrate out of distress. Now since NREGA is there, so people don't have to migrate out if there's no work in the villages. So all these things have been the positive contributors of NREGA, positive contribution of NREGA. But yes, it also has its own challenge. What are the challenges associated with NREGA? The one challenge here is all these concepts that we talked about: bottom-up approach, people-centric approach, self-selection. See, these are all very progressive things, rights-based approach. Now people themselves might not be aware of all these things. These are quite new. So how will people know about it? So sometimes people are not aware of it. So if people are not aware of it, how will the scheme be effective? Second major challenge here. See, there's a criticism that because of NREGA, people are becoming dependent on the scheme. People are working as NREGA worker and they're depending on it. So what is happening here is they become dependent on the policy. Now, at what point of time will you stop that policy? Is there any sunset clause to the policy? People are not gaining any skill as they're working as NREGA worker. They're carrying out basic activities. Their skills are not improving. If skills are not improving, then what is the advantage here? Will people be able to find some work later on if we scrap NREGA? And if you don't scrap NREGA, that means the burden on the exchequer will be there all the time. When are you going to scrap the policy? So some commentators suggest that people are becoming dependent on NREGA and they're not gaining any skill. And if you cannot scrap the program now, you have to continue it all the time. Another criticism is the kind of activities that are being taken up under NREGA. They are not leading to development. Why they are not leading to development? Because the kind of work is substandard in nature. The quality of work is not good. Within one monsoon, everything is washed away. So that is again another criticism. Another challenge comes from the agricultural sector. It is said that because of NREGA, because here people are getting some amount of work, they're getting wages, it is becoming very difficult to hire agricultural laborers. Industries are also facing the challenge. They are also not getting laborers because people are more engaged in NREGA work. So that challenge has also been pointed out. Apart from that, NREGA itself has some issues. For example, they have issues with beneficiaries, fake beneficiaries. Leakages have happened. Sometimes delays in payment is also there. So these challenges are also there. So there are some positives, there are some negatives as well. Some suggestions have been provided from time to time. For example, for the leakages that are there, or for fake beneficiaries, or for dealing payments, suggested that you should go for end-to-end computerization. Less of human intervention, less of discretion. So if everything is online, everything is through information technology, these things can be covered. It is said that distress migration under NREGA has been reduced, but it has not become zero. So some commentators suggest that we need to go for labor budget in rural areas. Every year, in the beginning of the year itself, you specify at what point of time, what kind of work will be carried out. So people know in advance that during the season, during the lean season of agriculture, this activity is going to be carried out. This kind of work will be carried out. This particular bunch will be created, or this kind of this particular road will be constructed. So people know in advance that during the off-peak season, these work will be carried out. So since these work will be carried out, there is high probability that they will get some work. So they don't need to migrate out of stress. This is one suggestion. Apart from that, how do we raise awareness about these progressive principles? You should create systems for that, so that awareness is raised. Apart from that, this developmental work, the quality of work is not good. What can be done about it? Maybe you should go for social audits. Regularly keep on checking. Society should be part of the process to ensure that the quality of outcome is good. So certain suggestions are also provided. What can be done about it? When it comes to agriculture, that we are not able to find sufficient laborers for agriculture. Now, some economists have also looked at it from a positive angle. They feel that if sufficient laborers are not there in agriculture, it is something positive. Why it is positive? They think that if you do not have sufficient laborers for agriculture, high chances that you will go for machines now for in agriculture sector, and it will lead to transformation of agriculture. All over this has been experienced. Whenever there is a shortage of labor, it leads to mechanization of agriculture, it leads to improvement in productivity. So it can be something which is positive. Apart from that, if Narega workers are getting higher wages, that is also something which is beneficial for the industry. Because if they get high wages, then their purchasing power increases, they will purchase more products. So industry will get a boost, there will be demand for the industries. So that way also it can be positive. So Narega is one of the most prominent schemes when it comes to rural development in recent times. There are positives to it, there are some negatives to it, there are also ways by which we can decrease the negative impact of Narega. Apart from Narega, what other challenges we have faced with the rural development programs that we have initiated? Now, one major challenge that we have faced is caste consciousness among the people. Now, because of caste consciousness among the people, initiating different development programs becomes difficult. Generally, what happens is those who are the dominant caste, they are the ones who pocket all the benefits. As we will be discussing community development program, green revolution, there are separate topics. There also you will see how certain castes they got the benefit. Those castes which are less prominent, less significant, they do not have access to power, they do not have access to wealth. They are the ones who are getting, they are the ones who are not getting any benefits. So caste consciousness of the people is impacting the development programs. Sometimes public funds are manipulated, leakages are there. Sometimes different developmental issues they got publicized. Sometimes different developmental issues they also getting, they also got politicized. And many times within the villages itself there will be inherent contradictions. So this also creates challenges. Now, one example I can give you: National Rural Drinking Water Project. So you are trying to promote drinking water facilities in rural areas. But what happens in this program is it has been observed that if you construct drinking water facilities in rural areas, there is challenge. Within villages there will be issues. There will be caste issues. So if you constructed a drinking water facility, common drinking water facility, it might so happen that those who are from the Dalit background, those who are considered to be untouchables, they are not allowed access to the drinking water facilities. It is accessed only by those who are considered upper class. So even if you are initiating a drinking water project, that also challenges these kind of, that also faces these kind of inherent challenges. DL Joshi points out that our rural development programs that we initiated, it made big promises, but it has not been very successful in altering the mindset of the people. The hierarchical structure that exists at the grassroots level, at the rural level, that has not changed. Daniel Thornton says that the rural development process that we have initiated is leading to development of a capitalist society. This thing we'll also see when we're discussing about green revolution. Apart from these observations, Francis Frankel studied India, studied rural areas in between 1960s and 1980s, and he has certain observations. Francis Frankel says that regional disparity in development is a product of rural development program. The way we initiated our rural development program, it has increased regional disparity. See, remember we discussed one thing in the beginning. The aim of rural development was decreasing socio-economic inequality, decreasing urban rural inequality. But he says rural development program has increased regional disparity. Disparity between regions has increased. For example, let's say green revolution. Some areas got the benefit where it was initiated, but in some other areas we did not initiate green revolution. Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, these are the places where green revolution was initiated, other places where it was not initiated. So regional disparity is increasing. Apart from that, caste consolidation and caste conflicts has increased in rural areas. There has been formation of a particular kind of nexus. Now all these schemes that you initiated, they were implemented by bureaucracy at the local level, rural levels. Now what is happening here is contractor politicians, bureaucrats, they are following their nexus. And upper caste, they are the ones who are primarily getting the benefit. The dominant caste, they are the ones who will collaborate and they will take the benefits. So what is happening here is the modern institutions that we are trying to initiate. For example, Panchayat Raj institutions. We are trying to initiate modern institutions. Panchayat Raj institution is modern institution. We are trying to initiate democratic decentralization. People should have power in their own hands. So these modern institutions, instead of breaking the traditional hierarchy that was there, they are making the relationship even stronger. Panchayat Raj institutions are initiated, but here also you find that members from the dominant caste, they are the ones who are standing for elections. We are introducing reservation for women in panchayats. So we are trying to break the hierarchy that males are superior than females. We are trying to break those norms. So that is the reason women are given reservations so that women's representation will be more. But what is happening here is women are participating in elections. Reservation is there. They participate in elections, but they will be controlled by their husbands. So this is something which we are observing post the 90s. So we are trying to initiate reforms, but the traditional structures also continue. Sometimes these traditional hierarchy also enforced. Women's scheduled caste, they are not getting much of the benefits. Generally, their awareness levels, literacy levels is less, and infrastructure is also lacking, through which they could have got these benefits. So regional disparity has increased because of rural development. Green revolution areas and those areas which did not have green revolution. Caste consolidation, caste conflicts has increased. Pocket different benefits, castes are becoming consolidated now. Nexus has developed between contractor, bureaucrats, politicians. Upper caste, they are the ones who have pocketed benefits. Modern institutions could not alter the hierarchy, rather in many places the hierarchy has become stronger, as per Francis Frankel. So this has been the observation of some thinkers related to rural development. So the process of rural development that we have initiated, the approaches that we initiated, they have had some positive outcomes. At the same time, they also have had some challenges. They also have some negative implications, some bottlenecks were there. So with this, we will end our discussion on rural development. So we started with the meaning of rural development. We understood the significance of rural development. What are the components of rural development? What are the different approaches to rural development? Sectoral area, sectoral approach, area approach, targeted approach, paternalistic approach, technocratic approach, those kind of approaches. We looked at some of the major initiatives for rural development that were taken after independence, and we also saw some of the major challenges. So this is about rural development. And one thing, we will be taking this discussion forward. We will be discussing about community development program, power relation schemes, green revolution, all these things in detail. We'll also be discussing about the problems of rural development specifically. So we will be connecting all the dots together. So that's it from my side when it comes to rural development. Thank you.